The year is 2021, and New Masters Academy is still the absolute #1 online art school in the entire planet. Click the link down below for a free 7-day trial. Thank you, New Masters Academy. I am in your mind. I am in your... Hey everybody, welcome back to the Honey Absinthe After Hours podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Vincent, a background designer for the animation industry.
And I'm Janet, the ex-Disney artist turned independent creator, and this is a podcast about all things art, business, and whatever you feel like.
You're gonna have an absolutely fantastic...
A very great week and a great Monday.
A great Monday. Last week was fantastic, so this week... even better than last week. Trust me, this week is going to be a lot better than last week, that's for sure.
Yep.
All right. So today we're going to talk about Janet's personal finance journey.
I thought it would be a good, kind of inspiring story for people to hear so that they can, take your money problems and make them disappear. If you want to quit, if you want to go on strike, if you want to do whatever it is that you want to do with your life, I have some tips for you.
You were always really into personal finance, saving money. You would always tell me, save your money. It's really important. And it's always been a part of a nagging part of our relationship, yes?
Yeah, I guess, because you'd spend a lot, and I'd be like, can
what
you stop?
Are you doing? And how would you describe my money habits?
Not good. When we first started dating, you would basically spend all your money right away, right when you got it. And I think the idea of budgeting and saving was very foreign to you.
You make the money and you spend the money, yes?
Like you would get work or like your paycheck, or you'd think I am getting my paycheck, and then you'd be like, oh, I can afford this. I'm like, you didn't get the paycheck yet.
Who was the person to really get you into the subject? Because there was one person who changed your life forever, and you listened to many financiers on the radio and the internet, but there was one person that changed your life. Who was that person?
It was Dave Ramsey. Yeah, and he was like the first financial person that I've ever listened to, and then I got hooked on a whole lot of other... Then I went looking, like on YouTube and stuff like that, for financial people to listen to. But because that... probably this thumbnail that I'm going to design later, Dave Ramsey fans will probably be here. Hello.
Hi.
Hello, all of you.
Hi. We are Hollywood heathens. The ones you pray for all the time.
Yeah.
To see the light.
So we will try really hard in this one episode to not swear. For you guys.
For you, evangelical Christians. Just for you. Just for you. We're going to try as hard as we can. Yeah. All right. So,
we will replace words with other words.
We'll do whatever we have to, essentially.
Yeah.
And how did you discover Mr. Dave Ramsey?
So, we share a car sometimes when I used to go to work, when I used to work at Disney. And you would turn the radio to like conservative radio, and I don't really listen to music. I just like listening to people talk. So sometimes I'll just like turn the radio on while I'm driving to pass the time. And normally I assume it's just going to be like political news or whatever. I don't know. There's some people that I recognize their voices or whatever at the time. So I turn it on, I think on my way back home after work. And then I hear this guy telling me something about like, you can really save a lot of money and retire early, or you can like something about like you can pay off all your student debt and then you'll be free. And
did you believe him? at first, or did he seem sort of like what?
Well, I just, so whenever you have this radio on, I'm just like, oh, whatever, your political Tootsie Roll stuff, whatever, is going to, it's just kind of boring. I just kind of not half listen to it. So I just expected to half listen to it. And then when he was talking about bringing up all this financial stuff, I was like, my ears perked up a little bit, and I was like, who is this?
So you came home, right?
Yeah.
You asked me straight up. I think we were living at the apartment, and you were like, babe, there's this old dude on the radio
Yeah.
talking about how to save money and to pay off all your student loans. And I was like, yeah, right. Like that's possible. And you said like how to do it in like what? 5 years or like something feasible.
Yeah.
5 or 8 years.
Yeah, in a fairly short amount of time. And I was like, who is this guy?
Yeah. And then I was like, in between listening to Rush, Mark, and Larry Elder, there's this one guy. Who taught. I think his name is. I would always confuse it with Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah.
And then, but like Dave Ramsey, he talks about money, and it's really boring. So I don't really listen to it.
I was like, it's not boring at all. I was so thoroughly entertained that I like sat in the car and didn't come out after I parked in the driveway. And I was like, he's giving me so much gold. Who is this guy? And I was like, I'm gonna listen, like, so who's this Dave Ramsey guy? And you're like, I think he's on like every like 6 p.m. or whatever. I was like, okay, I'm gonna
I think he's
listen.
after Mark.
Yeah, I'm gonna listen to him every single day now, coming home from work. This was like when I was at DreamWorks actually, so it was very early on.
Very, very early. So we got into this in 2017.
Yeah, around that time.
Around that time. So like this was a while ago. Man. So long ago.
And yeah, I became hooked. Became hooked on all his Davisms and stuff. And he would dispel a lot of myths. Like, so you asked like, did you believe him?
Right.
And I was like, it was just so shocking to me, some of the things he was saying, that it wasn't even if I believed him. I just was like, wait, you're blowing my mind right now. Like, just the simple...
Like, you wanted to stop the car.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't believe what you were hearing.
Yeah, I was like, what? You're lying, what? And just like, so you're asking me, what was... so shocking. And it was things like, you can pay off your student debt in like 3 to 5 years or whatever, shorter than the, what is it, like 10 to 15 years that they tell you can pay it off.
And you were like, whatever. No way.
And I was like, what? Excuse me? And that seems so simple. That idea of like paying off, like, that you will be able to pay off your student loans.
When everyone, especially at Art Center, they're like old aging bred like people going like, it took me, I'm still paying off my student loans, and you will too, Art Center graduates.
Yeah, so like, I realize, because we're in this weird age group where we can remember what it was like to be young, and we are also becoming, I don't want to say legitimate adults, but legitimate adults.
I don't know about you, but last week aged me 5 years. I feel 5 years older. Last week was such an amazing week because you joined us on our podcast. I aged 5 years. How about you?
I feel like I watched the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy, and I've just come out of the theater, and I'm like, what year is it?
Yeah, what year is it?
But so Being in our weird in between, we're like kind of young-ish millennials. I feel like we kind of understand what the Zoomers are struggling with as like deciding to go into college and stuff like that. And also like listening to people who are older than us, like for example like Tim on his podcast, and people who are just older. I feel like they don't understand the social pressure for a young person to go to college.
I mean, it's easy for a rebel to go like, I don't understand. Why can't everybody just like not? Social pressure and wanting to fit in, wanting to look good for your friends, buying those Yeezys. It's important. It's important for the youths. Very, very important.
Well, it's half social pressure, and it's half the idea of not going to college doesn't even cross a 17, 18-year-old's mind. Because
it's where you're supposed to go next, right?
Yeah. It's that's how life is. You go to school, you graduate. In your junior and senior year of high school, they start asking you, where are you going to go to college? Not if, where. And your parents say, like,
right.
you have to go to college or you're a failure. Or they don't even go, or you're a failure. You just have to go to college.
Yeah, and kids in your class are already getting accepted into big universities, and you're thinking like, and everyone has that question on their minds, especially when they're a high school senior. Mm-hmm. Where are you going? Where are you going? And out of what the kids call FOMO, you don't want to be the one saying, I'm going to go to community college or something. Or not even go to college. Yeah.
Like, even saying I'm going to go to community college is kind of like the worst thing ever. It's not the worst thing
It's
ever.
not, I mean, like, objectively, no.
Yeah.
But society doesn't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I remember, like, I get a lot of emails and DMs from people who are in high school or younger. And back when I had time to reply to a lot of them, they would ask me things like how did I get my job at Disney, or how did I get into animation, or they'll ask me, should I go to these colleges, or what should I do, and that kind of thing. And I went like, if I were to do things over, I wouldn't have gone at least so early to art school because of debt and stuff like that. I would have gone to like community college or whatever. And I would say, technically, you don't have to go to college at all. You can even go to some of these trade school type like program things and still get in. A lot of people do. And when I say that, they are like mind blown. They never once considered that possibility that you don't have to go to college.
Yeah, but then it hits them like, oh, I could not. But then it comes rushing that like, oh, how do I explain this to my parents?
Yeah.
What am I going to say to my friends who are going to college? What are they going to think of me? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they eventually go like, no, well, I have to. Yeah. My parents want me to get a degree. Or a lot of them think I'm lying to them.
No, you're like, no. They're like, no, you can't. You can't. Is this even okay to say to me?
yeah, that attitude. Oh, you had like an experience where like you would.
Yeah. So I can share that experience. So I used to be a part of a art program where I go to different schools around Los Angeles, and I give a presentation about this art program, and because I was doing it to supplement Art Center, like just my college life, just like a little bit of money on the side for college life. I'm obviously thinking and telling kids outright, like, man, college is expensive. Maybe go to community college. And the teachers did not like that.
They got mad at
you.
The
teachers got mad at me. They pulled me aside, and the teachers said, we don't say that. We don't tell that. We don't encourage that, going to community college to our students. And like, I could only imagine that that has nothing to do with the growth and development of the student. That has everything to do with society and how successful the student performs and how they look in front of the county so that they can have people go to their oh man, it's so hard not to swear. Go to their high schools. Ooh, I have to breathe. New Year's resolution. My New Year's resolution is to breathe. So I'm gonna breathe. They need to go. They need to attract people. So they can't just outright say that kids. It'll do you a lot of good to go to community college. You save money and you take care of your GEs, and you'll have an easier time in the university. No, you're a bum.
Yeah, basically.
That's what they see.
You're dumb.
And like, no lie, that's what we thought too. Don't.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes.
no, don't even lie. When you were 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
why.
you're kind of a bum if you go to community college, but then you're a 29-year-old and you're looking at yourself and you're going, I was such a mistaken young person. I'm such a mistaken young person.
Yeah, like I didn't learn about like the pathway through community college till I was in art school. That cost an arm and a leg. I didn't even realize you didn't really even need to go to community college or college. You have that choice. That's why when I hear people shame or put down a 17 or 18-year-old being like, you are an adult. You're 18 now. You can make your own decisions. You're perfectly capable of making your own decisions. You got yourself into a crazy amount of student debt. I just kind of go like, okay. First of all, you clearly haven't been 17 or 18 for a very long time. Because I don't know what 17 or 18-year-olds used to be like, but especially when I was that age, and I definitely know the ones that are this age today, not adults. And it's kind of silly honestly, they don't even look like adults to me as a almost 30-year-old person. Like, you kind of look, I can't tell the difference now between middle school and high school. They just kind of look all very like, oh, you're obviously still a child.
Yeah, we this is gonna be mean, but we kind of think that the age range is different now.
Yeah,
I think ages between 15 and 20 are the new preteen.
Yes.
And
yes.
20 through 25 are the new teenagers.
Yes.
And 25 through 30, like us, are the people getting the garbage beat out of them because they're starting to realize that I need to get my rootin' tootin' butt in gear because real life is hitting hard fast.
Which, you'd think you'd learn that in your like early 20s.
Right.
But I think people learn that
so much later.
25 to 30 these days.
There's a lot of people I know. Like, there's a person that we worked with who is really into yoga and eating well and mindfulness. Mm-hmm. She was really into that before I even cared about being healthy. But there are some people who get it. Mm-hmm. But I really think the majority of people won't get it until they really have to be pushed to do it. Yeah,
and so that's one. Your idea of what the maturity of a 17, 18-year-old is just all wrong. And then also, when you are told this is your path in life, you don't even really get to make a decision till maybe 25.
Yeah.
Then, you don't know what you're getting into. When you're 17 or 18, you have absolutely no idea what you're signing your life away to at that age.
But everybody else is.
Yeah, and all the adults in your life are telling you, this is normal. This is what you're supposed to do. They're like when you said like, oh, you were like that too, right? And I was like, oh yeah. I didn't think not going to college was even an option. Like that literal path possibility did not exist in my mind. I couldn't fathom that idea. I would be just as mind blown. I'd be like, wait, oh yeah, that is a choice. That never even occurred to me. So expecting a 17, 18-year-old and then to know what they're doing and then to like shame them also is not helpful. by lecturing someone who by then is probably like 21, 22 or older, that like you made a bad decision when you were 17 and kind of dumb. Yeah,
everyone's 17
obviously.
and kind of dumb.
Or everyone's 22 who went to college, and
right.
we know we made a very poor decision that honestly all our friends made. So we're all kind of in it together, and we were like, yeah, tell me something I don't know. But that's not helpful because I'm just stuck in debt forever. Because that's what society tells you, that you're stuck in debt forever now. Now that you're like out of college, you graduated, you're trying to work, you're stuck in debt forever. And there's no hope for you to pay it off and for the next 10 to 15 years because the sum is just too large. Not that you do the math. Not that you actually calculated, can I? Because that doesn't occur to you. They just tell you, you can't. You just can't. Trust us. We're the financial advisor. We're your parents. We're your counselor at college, whatever. Trust us. You can't pay off your student debt in whatever anytime soon.
And then you go, okay, mom and dad.
And then you're like, okay, I guess I have bigger things to worry about. I need to like get a job. I need to like not be a failure in life. Yeah. I need like
you're like, don't worry, mom and dad, I got this.
Kind of
having no idea of what getting it actually is.
So you just assume that you can't pay it off. You just assume. Yeah. Like, I'm just stuck with debt forever. That's what I think. Literally every single millennial that I know, while I was working, especially, was like, yeah, went to art school. Now I am in debt forever. And we joke about it.
It's like a meme.
Yeah.
Almost, yeah.
And there's we never actually did the math. We just accepted what society told us. Like, oh, I guess that's true. I pay my $300 debt to Sally Mae every month, and I guess I have to do that for the next 10 plus years. And so when I would listen to Dave Ramsey, he would be like, you know, you can, he would ask them questions, the callers. They'll be like, oh, how much do you earn? And you realize, like, if you just live cheaply, you can pay off your student debt in, like, X amount of years. And I'd be listening to this, and I was like, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, give people an idea of where we were at and how you were listening to Dave, and he was saying, oh, you just save this much, and then you just pay it off. You know, like how did you do it? What did you think about?
Well, he broke down the numbers very simply, and I'm a numbers person, and this never even occurred to me, and which is crazy. And because
you bought into the Kool-Aid.
Yeah,
you drank the Kool-Aid.
Like, oh yeah, clearly I never, whatever. And he would just break it down like simple addition, subtraction, multiplication. You don't need a whole lot of math skills to do this kind of math. And he would be like, yeah, you earn this much, you are taxed this much, this is the amount of money that you're keeping. Just throw all of it at your student loans. You'd be done in like 2 years, 3 years. Usually it's between like 2 to 5 years. And I'd be like, whoa. And then different people would have different crazier and crazier amounts, or because Dave Ramsey has like a southern accent, and he always like says like, oh, people I mean, they listen to him and they go like, "Oh, this hillbilly doesn't know anything about what he's talking about." But he's such a smart man. I feel bad for. I mean, I kind of have that too. I speak with a Valley Girl accent, so I'm sure people think, "Oh, what a dumb girl." But like, man, people with Southern accents really have it hard sometimes. Because I definitely saw some like weird treatment of people from like Tennessee when they would come here and like, didn't talk like us Californians.
What you mean in the industry?
Yeah.
Oh. Mean.
Yeah.
People are mean.
Yeah.
Pretend you're not mean, but you're actually really, really mean. We know. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, so people of all types of income would call in and be like, "Oh, I don't make much. I work as this and I make this much and I have such a large debt to tackle."
And I would listen to you, and the calls would always have this air of, "Oh, it's impossible for me to get out of this."
Yeah. And he'd just simply be like, "No, you, like everyone else, doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. Like, you can do it." And especially, like, sadly, the like more you make, usually the more debt you're in. So it's kind of like evens out. And yeah, it really opened my eyes. And I kept telling you too, as I was listening to him, I was like, I don't know why, but it's triggering some weird like nostalgia. I feel like I've listened to him before.
Your parents probably listened to him.
Yeah, and then my dad like wanted me to be an accountant, and
You would have been a fantastic accountant.
I would have been a great accountant who hated my life. And I was like, I think I remember my dad listening to this guy, and I was like too young to understand like why he was so enraptured about talk of retirement and investments and IRAs and all that stuff. Yeah. Oh, okay. Common myths. So what I did. Oh, okay. So after I got like obsessed with him, I think immediately I go too far with everything. With everything that I do, I go a little bit like 1,000%. So I immediately was like, I'm going to take this is like immediately after the first day I listened to him. I was like, I'm going to take action right now. And I like wrote down all the baby steps. Like Dave Ramsey has this like step-by-step thing. And I was like, okay, I know like I'm going to go even more hardcore than Dave Ramsey wants me to go. Like I think he allows you to like have certain amount of like, you can't be too strict with yourself, otherwise you will fail. And I was like, no, this is how much we're currently spending on food. I'm going to spend like nothing. And I'm going to like sell everything. I'm going to like live that monk life. Rice and beans and rice. And
same meal.
Every day. I lived this when I was like 6 years old. I can do it again. Because I had always been frugal. The only thing was I never thought I could pay off all my student loans and then just win at life forever. And I think you were looking at me like I was going crazy.
I know.
You were like, you're doing the thing.
Yeah.
She's doing the thing. Oh God, she's doing the thing. And I was telling you like, we're not going to eat out anymore. We're going to sell everything. And then you're like, you're not going to sell my things. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, fine. I'm not going to sell your things. I'm going to sell all my things. Okay.
It's like, okay.
But even as I was selling all my things, you were getting upset because you're like, why would you sell this?
I know. Yeah.
And then I just still sold everything. Yeah. And so yeah, this is like the step by step what I did. I was like, okay, the first thing is to sell everything to get like that first like big chunk of cash, because you don't realize how much you actually own until you look around, especially things that you don't use anymore, until you look around and you're like, oh, I I haven't touched that thing in a while, or I don't care about this thing anymore. Or I grew out of this, or this item of clothing doesn't look good on me anymore, or whatever. And I already am not, I don't have a lot of things, but I still was able to sell and make probably like, I want to say like $1,000 worth of stuff immediately.
Yeah, we had our apartment sale when we lived in the apartment because we had art supplies from college just lying around.
And those are kind of niche, unique items that are expensive no matter what, and like art students need them no matter what. Right. So I just like sold it all fairly easily.
Are there any things that you could think of from the top of your head that sell well, but people would probably think, oh, probably wouldn't sell? Like some Blu-rays and VHSs sometimes go for old video games.
Yeah. So anything old and nostalgic, old toys, memorabilia sells really well. Like I had a Totoro backpack that I sold no problem because it's Miyazaki and whatever. Stuffed animals sell really well. And surprisingly, like art supplies, people like, but you have to know too, like we're special that we know what our art supplies are worth and what they're not worth. So,
the quality of them.
Yeah.
It's sort of the same like instruments and things like that.
Yeah, and especially like back then, you're required to buy a whole lot of stuff when you are first learning in art school that you just never touch ever again. So I had a whole lot of like French curve rulers that like I don't use them, and stencils, like ellipse tool things, rulers, pens, pencils, oil paints, acrylics, like just so much stuff that I was like, I haven't touched this in years, that I just sold. And the way I looked at it too is I wasn't allowed to buy anything because I don't deserve it. Because I am not worth anything. In fact, I am negative. I am negative net worth.
So explain how you got these ideas from Dave Ramsey and how like it really feels like, because I would listen to him with you a little bit, and it really feels like when you're about to buy something, when you're, you're gonna splurge on ice cream sundae or something, or you're gonna buy that PS5. You hear Dave Ramsey going,
no,
in your head.
Yeah, he's like, what's wrong with you? You are in negative net worth, you don't have a retirement, you don't have savings. If you lose your job, what is going to happen to you? You're going to go more in debt, and you're not going to have anything to leave your kids. So you need to like not buy anything. You need to sell everything you have. You have to sell everything and the car until the kids think they're next. And I'd have all of that like going through my head, and I was just like, things are easy for me. I never want things. But I would go to the grocery store, and like my mom is really, really, really good at saving money and finding deals, to the point where like I think she should be on like extreme couponers or like hoarders too, or like preppers. She is intense. I have inherited a little of her skills, but not quite as like amazing at finding deals as she is.
When I go to your house, your mom would go, "Oh look, in the fridge, I have a good deal," and I open the fridge. There's chickens and meats, just no shelf. Just no semblance of shelf anymore. It's just chicken and meats, and they're all, it's just the wall of chicken and meats.
And she like Tetrises it so that like what you can normally fit in your fridge, she fits like 10 times more.
Man, when your mom helped us move from the apartment to this place, she realized the perfect way to get the couch into here, and then the boxes in there, and then it was perfect. We only had to go back and forth like once or something like that. It was perfect.
So I've learned a few things from her. I'd be in the grocery store, and I would look I had been meal prepping for a while because I was trying to like save our bodies from, the fast food or whatever. And I would spend hours, because I wasn't good at it yet, hours in the kitchen trying to make us food for the week, and my back would hurt and I'd just be like, I don't have time for this. I am busy. So I'd be in the meat aisle and I'd be looking at the chicken, and I'd look at like the pre-cut turkey breasts, like 6 in a row, probably like I want to say like $3 for that amount. And then I would look at like the whole chicken, the one that you have to break down, and I about like $3, the same price for like 3 times the amount of chicken and the bones for stock. And then I knew that like it takes time, like time I don't have to break down the chicken and all this stuff, and or to learn how. And I would be like, I really want the pre-cut chicken. And then I'd hear Dave Ramsey in the back of my head going, you don't deserve pre-cut chicken. you don't even have the money to buy that pre-cut chicken. You think you're worth so much money with your fancy Hollywood job? No, you have debt. You don't deserve that. And I'd be like, and I'd take like a bag of chicken and I'd spend like an extra hour.
But what you did learn was you took that whole chicken and then you looked at Gordon Ramsay's video on how to make chicken stock.
Yeah.
And it was the most delicious chicken soup ever.
I have perfected my chicken soup.
Oh, yeah.
And gotten very good at cooking because not because I love food, but like not because of that, because I wanted to save money. Like I recently really considered becoming vegetarian because I realized, not because like I'm gonna lose weight, I'm gonna be more healthy, not I don't care about any of that. I was like, you save $750 more every single year if you become a vegetarian. And I really was like, ooh, that's really enticing. And then you're like, no, don't do it, you're making a horrible mistake.
Please.
Yeah, so that's how far I went. So like when I see other people who make lots of money but are horribly in debt, and they like just bought like a PS5 or something, I can't help but like the tiger mom in my head is like, you're in debt, you don't deserve a PS5, you sell that PS5 right now, how dare you you can't afford it. Tell me, what can you afford? Oh, you make so much money, like then pay off your then pay off your humongous student debt.
I'm proud of you.
I've been listening to the book Loser Think by Scott Adams, and if you haven't listened to this book already, you really should. It's all about self-help and how you can think and improve your life. And if you don't already have an Audible subscription, head over to audibletrial.com/the Honey and Absinthe podcast for your free trial. You will get 1 free audiobook or 2 free Audible original audiobooks, and they recently also added podcasts. So head over to audibletrial.com/the Honey and Absinthe podcast.
It was hard. Okay, so it was hard for me because I'm bad with my money. Still kind of am.
Yeah.
But I try, and with your assistance, we have both figured out how to use eBay to sell a lot of my stuff. Eventually, I relented because I wanted more instruments. So I was like, oh, I don't play PlayStation as much, and I don't. What can you list out all the different types of stuff that I sold?
My God! So
I sold the PlayStation.
Yeah, you sold like 3.
I sold three PlayStations that I had just lying around. What else?
And toys and video games.
Barely any toys though. Like these were toys. Oh, we shouldn't mention the toys.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. And then what else?
rare DVDs.
I do have a lot of those.
You had a lot of rare DVDs and mostly electronics. You had a lot of electronics.
Yeah, so I had a lot of stuff lying around, and now the house is a lot more sparse. Instead of stuff, we filled it with plants, which is very nice. And instead of having things, like the Marie Kondo thing, where you want to have stuff that only sparks joy, I would look around and I'd think more like all these things that I say, like, oh, I'm keeping this because I'm going to get around to it someday.
Yeah.
I'm keeping my PlayStation 2 because I'm going to be really good at playing King of Fighters someday. And then you think, like, I'm never going to have time for that.
Yeah.
I'm never going to have time for that. So then you think, like, okay, I'm just going to sell all this stuff. And then the first wave of things you sell, you think, like, okay, that's it. I don't think I could sell more than that. I mean, like, the things that I have now, I really, really need. I really, really need them. And then you sell those things that you think you really, really don't need. And then you realize that there's some of these things that you sold are worth a lot.
Yeah.
And then you go, and then you look at the stuff you have and you go, oh, I think I could sell a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it snowballs into I want to sell everything. And there isn't much to sell anymore.
Yeah, there truly isn't.
We literally go to estate sales and garage sales to find things to flip.
Yeah.
And that's been fun.
That was fun.
Yeah.
And so after I sold everything and I got a whole lot more cash in my pocket, what Dave Ramsey tells you to do is to pay off all your debt and then do your 6-month emergency fund. But the problem is, like, a lot of people don't like doing that because, one, it's scary, and two, the fear is that you are going to lose your job, or you have something, you're like a freelancer or something, and it's impossible to predict when you'll get your next job. So a lot of people might be like, oh, I don't want to get myself into more debt by basically putting all my money towards my debt and I have nothing in the bank. So I felt the same way, especially because working in Hollywood is not the most, especially in TV animation, is not the most stable job in the world, because you never know. You never know when your show might get canceled. Your show is ending. You just got hired, but like you are only hired for a month because the show is ending.
You don't know if the executive producer did something inappropriate and all of a sudden your show disappears.
You don't know if your show, even though it was greenlit, suddenly is canceled, even though they already announced it. So you literally don't know if tomorrow you will have a job. And I had basically just gotten hired. I had a lot of debt, and I was very well aware of, like, especially when you're new, getting the second job. I had a mentor who told me it's not about getting the first job, getting the second job. It's about getting the second job. If you can do that, then you've figured out life in the industry. But a lot of people think, oh, I got my first job, things are great, I will always have a job. Like, no. And there are a lot of people who get their first job in the industry and then expect, I guess, the industry to take care of them, and then they could never find their second job. And knowing that reality, I was like, I'd rather just save my 6-month first and then use the money, like save up more to pay off my loans. So I did that. And in fact, I think a lot of women in particular probably feel the same way I do. I thought 6 months wasn't enough. I was like, it took me a certain length of time to find my first job. If it takes me the same length of time to find my second job, 6 months is not enough. So I think I saved up like a year, a year's worth, before I became confident enough where like six months is fine. I was a little bit like scared of life, I guess. And then, yeah, I used the rest of I did everything. I saved every single penny. I did the craziest things to basically throw all my money at student debt and then paying it off.
And then in Dave Ramsey's show, they have like a celebratory thing. You could call in when you're done finishing off your
Yeah,
debt.
or you can go and do like a debt-free scream.
Oh, wow.
Go to Nashville.
Explain what this is about.
So like one thing to like encourage people, I think near the end of his hour or 3-hour long show, he has the debt-free scream, and it's basically all the people who, because of him, went through his process, paid off their student debt, and then you can go to Nashville, go into the studio, or call in if you can't, and do a debt-free scream, which is just like, I'm debt-free, as like passionate as you can, and it's supposed to, and it does inspire people to be like, I want to do that.
So what have you learned since then? That's 4 years, almost 4 years of. I mean, it started with Dave Ramsey, and then you got into all sorts of different finance advice people. And what did you learn? What are your what would you tell yourself if you met yourself now, but in the past?
I would tell myself, first of all, you have the capability to be exactly like your mom. Don't think you're any better or any different. You're
the same.
And I learned how to save. When you try to make your expenses as low as humanly possible.
It's a game to you.
It became a game to me, and I became very, very, very good at saving money. So some of the tips I would tell young Janet or any young person: don't shop at Whole Foods.
Shop at Food for Less.
Yeah, shop at Aldi or what? I'm not sure what kind of discount grocery store chains are near you.
Oh, what's that one? We went to Arizona and I was like, oh wow, it's one of those. Safeway.
Yeah.
Safeway. I'm not sure if that's
I don't
comparable.
think it's a discount.
Oh, that's like
it's kind of like a or a Ralph's.
But when we do shop at Vons, there's a significant difference to shopping in your local whatever discount produce store,
Yeah,
right?
so you'd think that like, oh, I shop at Ralph's or whatever normal grocery store. It's like groceries are groceries. Like they're priced the same across the board unless you go to like a specialty store like Whole Foods, and then you're paying a lot for organic and non-GMO stuff or whatever. Turns out, I was like wondering, like, man, I'm barely buying anything. Like, I have to spend like $200 or more on a week's worth of groceries at a Ralph's. And then I just thought, like, what would my mom do? And then, because she was able to like basically stock our home with groceries for a month for like under $200, and I'd be like,
impossible.
What?
How?
What? And I remembered, I dug deep into my memories, and I was like, she would drag me to like 10 different grocery stores for some reason when I would go grocery shopping with her. Which one were those stores again? Oh yeah, one of them was like Food for Less. And so I went to Food for Less.
And for our friends in animation, where are the Food for Lesses? The closest one in Burbank is the one in Sun Valley, I'd say. And if you go to school at Art Center College of Design or PCC or in that Eagle Rock area, the closest one is the Pasadena Food for Less. And then in Los Angeles, there's the one on Sunset, but there's a whole lot of them. So I'd say find these places, because we just went there this morning, and I'm thinking like, wow, look at all this food we're getting. And then I love seeing how much we save.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I love buying 10 vitamin waters for $10. The best.
Vincent is addicted to vitamin waters.
It reminds me of Pedialyte.
And I want Vitamin Water to sponsor us one day.
Please.
Just so I don't have to buy like packs and packs of Vitamin Water.
I haven't even thought of that. Vitamin Water sponsoring us would be amazing. My favorite Vitamin Water is the red one.
Yeah.
I love the red one.
original.
The vitamin C one. Oh, so good. So good.
But yeah, I would.
Sorry.
So I went to Food for Less, and I found out too. Like Food for Less is literally owned by the same company that Ralph's is, like Kroger basically, and so they have the exact same groceries, but like half the price usually. And I was like, what? And I was able to get our grocery costs down to like, I want to say like $75 a week for the both of us.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
That's the apartment days, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I would literally be calculating, okay, eggs $2, milk $4, in my head, and being like, $75 is my limit.
Yeah, it's usually when we go to, like today was about 100 something. Less than that.
Yeah.
Like barely 100. But when we go to Vaughn's, it's like upwards of like already upwards of 200
For like
already.
half the amount of groceries.
Yeah.
So there's that. My mom, she still goes like to 10 different grocery stores to buy groceries. And I think for a while when me and my sister flew the nest, she was too accustomed to buying for like a family, so like she kept giving us food.
Yeah.
Extra food that
Until we didn't have space to put the food.
And like my mom loves a deal. Like she never buys anything for herself ever, but I think the excitement of a deal is
Warms her heart.
more exciting than having anything. And so she would bring like cartons and cartons of eggs and be like, I went to Aldi the other day and they had a sale on eggs and I bought one of these was like 50 cents. And I'd be like, no way. But also like, I don't eat this many eggs. It's okay.
Why do you think your mom is like this?
Actually, this is actually very relevant. Because my parents grew up in a farm during communist China. And one of the things that we did when my family took me to mainland China, we visited the rural areas. The rural areas where, like, I think they were from. And it is like farmland. It is like third world country. There are no cars. There are people on bikes and motorized bikes.
The roads barely look like roads.
There are no roads. They're dirt roads.
Yeah.
And we went to this little farm run by this family, and they had 3 chickens in the little chicken coop. Literally, this is all they had as meat. Like they're vegetarian. Like people here cannot live on meat. They have chickens for their eggs, and they were like, we'll slaughter a chicken for you, pick one. And to them, that's like only on New Year's do they do that. So
like that's a banquet. We're having a ball.
Yeah.
By having a chicken.
Yeah. So they're like, well, we'll slaughter pick one. And so we picked one and we ate there and we paid them like handsomely. Like I think, yeah, we paid them a lot of money to have that experience. And I remember back then when you're traveling, you have digestive problems, let's say. And I couldn't eat all that much, but my parents, out of like respect, were like, they forced like the entire chicken down. And they were like telling me and my sister like this is how we lived back then. Like this means so much to them, we can't waste it. Like we can't like make them clean it up and like be like, oh wow, these stupid foreigners wasted one of our 3 chickens.
We had 3 of them.
Yeah, now we have 2. So that was an interesting glimpse into where my parents came from. So when they came here with nothing, they have some weird like PTSD. And that is why my mom saves like crazy, hoards like crazy.
You open the fridge, it's filled with chickens.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, a chicken was a delicacy.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why my mom is the way she is. My dad, for some reason, doesn't have the same kind of problem.
Your dad likes deals in the stock market.
I mean, I think people make fun of like Chinese people for being so cheap and so frugal and like penny pinchers and stuff, but like you do not understand. It's not that Chinese people don't like to buy stuff. They love
Gets
sales.
them high.
They love sales.
They love it. They love it. It's a rush to them. Imagine what to you is the most exciting, somewhat normal thing that you do. I don't know. Maybe it's you like to skateboard, and there's the rush, or nailing that trick is really makes your blood pump. To a Chinese person, when they save money, for example, when we needed to move from the apartment, instead of getting a U-Haul, your dad got these Chinese truckers that and the truck looks like the most dinkiest truck from the 80s. Like really, really dinky. It really doesn't. And then it's loud. So I remember that morning because it was shock and awe. The first thing I hear was like the sound of it sounded almost like it was trash day, but it wasn't trash day. And then you hear beep, beep, beep. And then I remember starting to think like, oh man, I remember today is the day, like we're going to move everything. And then you hear, Haila. Oh my God. And then I go, no, this can't be. And then they go, Zala. And I go, no, please. No. And then your phone buzzes. And then I think, this day is done for. And it was. We, on our way out of moving out of this apartment in Burbank, probably made the biggest ruckus. And our landlord did not like ruckuses. No. So she was really angry on our way out. But yeah, like, and the worst part of all, your dad rented the truck for 30 minutes for $30. 30 minutes for $30. And we could barely fit the things in the amount of time. So the rest of the stuff we didn't manage to put in the truck. We had to, get your mom's SUV or whatever it is and do the rest ourselves. But man, that was an experience. Yeah,
my dad was yelling at me that I didn't do a good enough job packing and I was like, what is the problem? We hired movers, didn't we? And then he was like, I hired them for 30 minutes. We are paying them every 30 minutes. We are only going to pay them for 30 minutes. That is that. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
I was like, this is going to be the worst Saturday of our life. It was tough. It was really tough. Moving's hard. But yeah, that was your dad penny pinching in ways that, I don't know, more detrimental than actually helpful.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Yes. So yeah, I've learned some of those ways. I am not that extreme. I have learned through lots of arguments with you that because it's obvious that if you like spending and I love saving,
we have a problem here.
Yeah. And I've gotten understanding enough to know exactly where the compromise needs to be, because I care more about our relationship than saving an extra $10.
We found this amazing system where I sell the bologna that I have, and then I spend the bologna that I sold, money that I sold selling the old bologna to buy more new bologna.
Yes, as long as you're not you end up at zero every time, that's good enough for
Yeah,
me.
I'm negative right now though.
Yeah. And I'm trying to sell more stuff.
We'll figure it out.
So more tips. Not only did I buy the whole chicken and learn how to break down a chicken like Gordon Ramsay.
And how easy was that? Because people are
Actually-
probably thinking right now, like, oh, I could never.
That's actually pretty easy. I challenged myself again because I take things way too far. I was like, the first time I did it, I think it took like an hour because I did not know what I was doing. But then I was like, no, this is unacceptable. I need to be the best at breaking down a chicken. So I was like, I need to get this down to under 15 minutes. And I think I got close.
Oh, you were really good at that.
Yeah, I'd just be like,
You know, like
break,
how like
chop.
the Marines can break down a gun.
Yeah.
You can break down a chicken so fast, man. And it's somewhat systematic too.
Yeah.
There's an order to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not only would I do that, I also realized that there's this thing called the manager's special, which is basically all the normal meat that is on sale for no other reason that it's fairly close to its expiration date. It hasn't crossed the expiration date. It might cross it in like a week versus 2 weeks. So I was like, wait, so that's like, I once paid like, I think like $1 for a lot of meat because it was like 90% off.
Oh my.
But
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my word.
and so again, compromising with you, I said, like, we're not allowed to eat out, and if we want anything bad as like a cheat meal or something, we have to make it ourselves. That's the only rule. We have to make it difficult.
Yeah,
to
that
eat
was
bad.
the time. That was the time we instructed that rule upon ourselves. It was 2017. I remember we followed that rule really strictly, and I fell in love with cooking what?
Steak.
Yeah. I love getting a New York piece of steak. Woo, baby. And then like pounding that boy, you know, so hard, and then sticking it on that pan with that olive oil,
Yeah.
you know, and then just like just timing it, like flip.
Yeah.
Salt and pepper. That's all you need.
Yeah.
And then just, you know, preparing it, letting it sit for, oh, that sound like good. Letting it sit for 1 minute. Absolutely fantastic. Amazing. 1 minute. And it just, oh man. And then you slice it, and then it's like, ooh, pink. Ooh, a little bit of blood. Ooh, mwah. And then you put it in your mouth. Oh, the butter.
Yeah.
Oh, butter on your steak.
Yeah.
Come on.
Like Vincent didn't know how to human before me. I taught you how to cook. I forced you to cook and to clean.
I was like,
and
no, I would just want hamburgers for the rest of my life.
You want Denny's?
I want hamburgers and Denny's for the rest of my
I
life.
was like, no, I don't want you to die of a heart attack.
I don't care what you think. I'm going to be a 40-year-old man still going to Denny's.
And yeah, you learn how to cook. So I was like, I don't care if we want cake. We have to bake a cake ourselves if we want sweets. If we want ice cream, I guess we can't make ice cream, but like we can make something similar, like an ice cream-ish smoothie or whatever.
Yeah.
So in the manager special was where like New York steaks are like $10 for 2 strips. I was like, that is like,
dude, New York steak's kind of that cut's not cheap.
yeah, for
not a
someone
key-
who
yeah.
wanted to spend $75 for 2 people in a week.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's a seventh of my budget. I cannot do that. And so for like 1 meal basically. And so I would go to the manager special, and the only time we would ever eat steak is if like the New York cut of steak was in there.
Oh, that's right. And then we would have just chuck or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just not as good, but you know, steak is steak. Steak
Yeah,
is fun.
but you'd be surprised. We had steak like every weekend
Oh, dude, that's so
because
great.
it was like $5 for a lot of steak, and I was like,
Yeah,
you were
honestly,
working out a lot.
Yeah, we were working out a lot, and then having something like steak was my dessert. You know, it's rich with the butter. I love a lot of butter on my steak, and then it melts in your mouth. It's just wonderful. It's just wonderful. But at times you can find a really, really good deal. And just recently, you figured out how to make the most amazing $2 soup.
Yeah.
And this isn't just like a small like little tub or cup of chicken soup. This is a big pot of $2 soup. Please explain to everybody how you accomplish this and how you can make it even cheaper.
So now that, I'm not that as like strapped for cash, I have gotten a little bit easier on myself. I got like chicken stock. I bought chicken stock. Before, honestly, you can make a really good chicken noodle soup for like under $1 if you made your own chicken stock. And you can make a lot of it, especially because if you buy a whole chicken, you break it down, you use every single last ounce, head to tail, of the thing that you bought. You can't waste your money. And you use the bones for like gallons of stock. And with that stock, you can just you can make so much.
It's so tasty, man. You really taste the marrow and everything just simmering and cooking down. A lot of it, sometimes when you just get the pure broth, it just looks like little bits of fat with just golden broth.
Yeah.
Oh, it's delicious.
And it's basically with basic carrot, celery, onion, chicken stock, and chicken. And you have like a meal that can be under $2 for a week, for like lunch for a week. And I had this interesting experience when I was working at DreamWorks. I was going through all this like personal finance stuff, and having grown up poor too, I said before, I literally grew up for the first half of my life never eating out and only eating rice, broccoli, and fish for every single meal, lunch and dinner, every single day. And that is honestly like a really, really, really cheap meal. So I was talking to like someone who was sitting next to me at the time, and he was trying to explain to me how, poor people can't afford groceries. They can't afford to be healthy because groceries are too expensive. And I was like, what do you mean? Because I genuinely did not know what he meant at the time. I was like, what are you talking about? And then I think I come across, I don't know why, people assume that I have like a silver spoon in my mouth or whatever. Like I grew up wealthy. I wonder why. But I really didn't. So I was so confused by what he meant. But I think he assumed that like, this probably middle-class suburban girl grew up fine, doesn't understand the plight of the poor people. And he was like, yeah, like people can't afford $100 to go grocery shopping. They have to buy McDonald's. And then I was like thinking about my childhood, and I was like, okay, I guess, because like McDonald's is so much more expensive than the meals that I grew up with.
Yeah, like a value meal is like $2. Janet's pot of soup that lasts you an entire week is $2.
Yeah.
And it's delicious.
And I was kind of like, okay, I guess. And so that's why I feel like people who say that, I don't think know what it's like to be poor, because I'm like, that's kind of really false information. And especially because like I also grew up like where I grew up is interesting. It's like a really like middle class suburban, in a lot of ways upper middle class area, but there were a lot of people who I grew up with who weren't that at all, myself included. And one of my friends growing up, her family was on like welfare, and they did a lot of things to stay on welfare, and they ate well. And also, I don't think people know that like food banks are free. Like you don't have to be low income to go to food banks, and you can literally walk in and take everything, and you don't, if you didn't want to pay for groceries, you technically don't have to.
So your grandma can barely eat anymore.
She's like reaching her 90s.
Yeah, she can barely eat anymore. So your mom brought a box of food that was supposed to be for your grandma, courtesy of the government, yes?
Yes.
And we used the macaroni for the chicken noodle soup.
Yeah, because that whatever fake cheese is not good for you.
Yeah. But, you know, I mean, you could go to Food for Less, and that's like 50 cents, like $1.
Yeah,
Like, it's
or,
like pasta's so cheap.
So I'm just like, when I heard my coworker say that, I was kind of like, this sounds not like what I think you think it sounds like.
So what's on the menu 2021? I think this is the best menu because what we used to eat before was yams and all this other stuff, which was fine. I think everybody, when they're trying to eat healthy, should figure out what they like the most, because it's not going to be easy. It takes a while. I think the food that we have now, some of it, in all honesty, is the most healthy. Like, for example, like we have fried rice. You know, rice and carbs, not the best.
Yeah, like if you want to save money and lose weight so badly that you're just eating sweet potatoes and chicken breasts every single day, you are probably going to fail very quickly, because you're going to get real tired of chicken breasts and sweet potatoes every single day.
Right. It's really easy to get tired of the same thing.
And then you're going to want to eat out.
The key is variety.
Yeah. And like having just enough ways to indulge yourself so that you know, it requires a lot of knowing yourself.
Yeah. For example, we have been eating healthier, so we no more Postmates. No more Postmates. And then we have fried rice, which with whatever meat, could be beef, steak, or whatever. Fried rice, turkey meatballs or beef meatballs, Janet's amazing chicken noodle soup, sometimes steak, you know, stuff like that. But we really do our best. Spaghetti, you know, and we try to keep it, you know, mix it up. Because before, we used to just try to do, we're going to be hardcore. We're going to have yams and chicken. And very, very quickly, you can just not want that and then go, I didn't prepare anything else. I'm going to go to McDonald's, whatever. Yeah.
And that's not good either. Like it's better to spend a little bit more so that you don't fail. You don't end up failing.
Yeah, so one of my treats, when I really want ice cream or something really bad, I make a buttered toast peanut butter jelly sandwich, which is just awful. Yeah. Like I was doing so great with everything until I realized, because you like to make grilled cheese sandwiches.
Yeah. Because
you take up so much energy, it seems like.
I actually burn so many calories every day.
You metabolize so fast.
Yeah, that I sometimes am on the verge, fairly frequently am on the verge of fainting. Practically like every time I weightlift.
Right. So a real treat for me is to make a buttered peanut butter jelly sandwich, and I need to stop eating those. I need to stop. But mostly everything else, good. We've been waking up 5 o'clock in the morning, exercising, just living life. First couple weeks of the year, owning it.
Yeah.
You know, wait, first week? Is it first week?
First week of the year.
First week of the year. Yeah. Owned it easy. It was easy.
Yeah. And on top of that, like just making all like the cheap meals, I didn't do this initially, but I learned eventually that like credit cards, I know this goes totally against Dave Ramsey, but I've been very good with credit cards all my life. I use it like a debit card, and if you do that, you can use the points. You get paid to spend money. Like, it's money that you are already going to spend every month, like on groceries and stuff like that. You can use the points that you get to either get cash back or free travel. So, like, that's when, like, I learned all I could from Dave Ramsey. And then I went on YouTube. And then I would, like, listen to, like, Graham Stephan and other financial people. And then I was like, wait, I have credit card points since I was like 16, because I was like, my dad was all about building my credit and all that stuff. So I looked and I got like, I think over $1,000 in cash back at the time. And I used some of that too on travel for when we would go to conventions to sell our wares. So we wouldn't pay to have a hotel, to make our lives easier while we're trying to make more money.
Where would you deviate? What was different between, what would Dave say?
Dave would be like, if you are already in debt and you're bad with money, you should not be using credit cards.
Oh, you shouldn't even touch that thing.
Yeah, in fact, cut up all your credit cards right now. Like, cut them up so you can't use them. And
he'd rather
use
you not
cash.
even build credit because you're not. I see.
Yeah, he doesn't really believe in the credit system because it's based on debt and how well you are at managing debt, which means that it's built so that you get yourself into debt
It's like
on
those
purpose.
Gosh darn libraries. They know. They know you're gonna mess up.
Yeah. So like if you're like you, for example, you avoided credit cards for the longest time because you already knew that you're bad with money.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
I did. I also my high school teacher, economics teacher said the same thing. The only thing I took away with was my economics teacher telling me something like, if you're bad with money, or you know what, I recommend all you youngsters just don't use a credit card. And then I was like, okay, adult, sounds good to me. I'm not going to use a credit card.
Yeah, and like I always told you, like you realize because you're so good at, like you're not great with money, but you're good at knowing that you're not going to spend anything you don't already have. So since you're already using like a debit card, you might as well get a credit card and you were like too scared. You're like, I'm too scared.
Yeah. Because I know how to make. I am really good at my timing for purchases. Like we didn't get a nice TV in a long time.
Yeah.
like
we had a little rinky-dink TV
for the longest time, and then we really treated ourselves after it's been a while.
Yeah.
For example, ritualistically, almost every holiday season, Black Friday, Cyber Monday season, I spend a lot. I don't like spending money any other time other than that time, or better yet, after the New Year's, because then it's just, what is that? When they have too much inventory, where they're trying to get rid of the old inventory.
Yeah, and they're trying to liquidate.
Yes.
Stock.
That's a really cool time to buy stuff. But I know I don't buy stuff often, and I know that much. But then you're like, oh, those times when you do buy a lot, you should use your credit because then you build up the credit out of that. And then, I feel like a lot of people like me hear money talk and they go,
You're like, no, I don't want to talk about
scared. Nah, scary. I think when you explain to me the points thing and the stuff about how you think one of the best ideas, since we do go to comic book conventions and sell our wares, we could just, instead of using the money that we would use to travel and all that stuff, we could use points. I thought was genius. I was like, oh, that's perfect. We could save so much money and live comfortably, because when you're doing conventions, you're going to be really tired and uncomfortable. And it's really, we learned very, very soon that especially even driving to a convention that's like an hour and a half distance away, where we'd rather just have a hotel.
Yeah.
Just saves all the grief and sadness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things we did really early on that saved a lot of money is cut the cord.
Yes. That was easy.
We already didn't have cable, but we looked at all the streaming services that we had, and we were like, which one do we not really need? And then when you start asking yourself that question, it gets really dangerous for these streaming companies, because you start realizing, oh, I don't watch anything on Netflix.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing on Netflix that I watch. I spend time scrolling and go, wow, there's nothing here. And then you go like, oh, I guess that's an extra $10 in my pocket every single month, because I'm not going.
I'm going to cancel my Netflix, or I'm going to cancel my Disney Plus.
Yeah.
We do recommend Criterion Collection all the time.
That's the only one I think.
Worth it.
Yeah.
Worth the money.
And you asked me recently, what would I say to the person that's like, oh, well, you can do this because you're you, or you make this much money, or excuses, basically. Excuses like, no, you're wrong. This is not possible. And I was like, well, there's something Dave Ramsey always says to people who have this myth still stuck in their head. He is a rich man, and he's well connected. He knows a lot of basketball players, and he knows a lot of wealthy people. And he knows a lot of veterans too, because they pay you really well if you join the army
Yeah, and when you suddenly come up on a lot of money,
when you're like 18.
you spend a lot of it.
Yeah.
Even on a smaller degree, when you get your first animation job or something like that, and you're making more money than, you know, people your age usually, you're like, oh, I have so much money to spend.
Yeah.
You know?
And like doctors, lawyers have this problem too, even though they're in like mountains of med school debt.
Yeah, I guess it seems as though money problems, they're not, you know, it's not about intelligence or something. It's just habits, I guess.
And what you were taught when you were younger, how to manage it. And so like he would ask like these basketball players that suddenly they came from nothing. Now they're playing in the NBA and they have like $1 million deals, and they think in their head, well, I'm a millionaire now. I'm
buying the mansion.
Yeah.
That's what I would be thinking.
Time to buy that gold chain. Time to buy that Cadillac. And Dave goes like, who's managing your money? Like, are you doing okay? And then with all your sudden wealth, and then they're like, don't worry about it. I got a guy managing my money. And then Dave is always like, no, you need to manage your own money. Otherwise, you have no idea how much money you actually have and what you can afford and if you're even okay or not. So that's why a lot of athletes and musicians and artists go broke after they get really, really wealthy immediately after. I mean, it's like Drew Struzan, the person who designed all the posters that you probably are really familiar with if you are like Gen X, millennial, like
Back to the Future,
Yeah.
Indiana Jones,
Star Wars.
Man. Babysitters, Adventures of Babysitters.
He is like the poster artist, and you'd be surprised he got screwed over by his agent, because he was, you know, your typical artist who was like, I just want to be an artist. I don't want to deal with any of this money stuff. I have an agent or a manager or whatever to deal with all that stuff.
Which is a very normal artist tendency.
Yeah.
It's just something weird, especially about you're okay. Let's make sure. I'm sure a lot of artists are feeling really insecure right now. Mm-hmm. You are a freak. You are a freak of nature, and most artists are really, really, really uncomfortable about talking about money. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sure I've worked with a few people like you, mm-hmm. but that's the minority. You know,
Yeah.
A lot of people, it's being young and then suddenly making money. Like you're making bank, making cartoons in Hollywood. That's cool. And then all of a sudden you're at Lemonade and all these crazy, you're shopping at Whole Foods, you know?
Yeah. Well, $200,000-$300,000 in debt.
You know, Dave would probably get really angry with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think a lot of people, there are even comments on my channel, because I'm a weird mix of like art and business. Occasionally I'll get like you talk about money too much. You make me uncomfortable. And we literally have friends who have said those exact words to me too. They're like, oh, I don't like talking to my parents because they talk to me about how I need to save for whatever.
For my 401k. Yeah.
And like it stresses me out. And I'm like, you're venting to the wrong girl here. I cannot relate. If you need comfort, probably not me. I will shame you just like Dave Ramsey.
Would.
And I'd be like, do you want to end up like Drew Struzan? Do you want to end up like these rappers and these athletes who had guys, quote unquote, their guy to take care of their finances for them?
I was re-listening to the Black Keys podcast with Joe, and just them talking about how a lot of these record deals, you're just set up for failure.
Yeah.
You know, you're just set up to be in so much debt. So It's really easy. It's like sometimes, it's really easy. It's almost like, not to sound conspiratorial, but it's almost like it's made for you to screw up. And then you owe a lot of people money. Like the library.
And like, I don't understand why art school, especially some of these like private art schools, are so expensive. But it really does seem like you go to art school, you get yourself in lots of debt for this dream that you think is worth it, that they're selling to you.
Spell it out for Dave's audience who's here. Like, really make them cringe if you can. Like, explicitly.
Well, when you are 17, 18, I mean, I still get messages like this, like from 15-year-olds every day, how much they desperately want to work for Disney. Desperately. And they are willing to do anything. They're willing, even if you told them, not that they can comprehend, that you're going to be $300,000 in debt by the time you're out of these fancy schools that promise that you will get a job immediately after you graduate from them, that you will work for Disney. You don't care. You're willing to give an arm and a leg, literal arm and a leg, just to have that, to have what I had. And there's absolutely nothing I could possibly say to convince them otherwise. And I just sigh and I go like, okay, you want what you want. And so they go, okay, the school is promising me, whether they realize it subconsciously or not, that's what's in their mind. They're promising me that it's okay. $300,000, whatever. This is my dream. They're promising my dream immediately, not a year, not 2 years after college. Like, they're going to hand me this job. Or because of the connections that I will suddenly be hired at Disney. So you're diligent, you work hard, you do everything that you are told that you should do, and then you graduate and you're so excited, and it's really difficult to find a job. No matter what you are, even if you are an artist, whether you're a doctor or whatever. I have people who are like in med school trying to, like, it's hard for everyone. And you realize I'm $300,000 in debt, and I can't find a job. And you work your butt off to finally get your dream job. I work at Disney now. This should be the dream. This is everything I work towards since you're like 15, because you kind of have to start really young for most people.
Yeah, but most people when they're 15, they saw the, making a Finding Nemo or making a How to Train Your Dragon. All of a sudden you're inspired, like, oh, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Just like us.
Yeah. And you think it's going to be, for some reason in your head, something more than a cubicle desk job. But that's what it is. You realized you paid $300,000, and you're $300,000 in student debt, and you were sold this dream that you, for some reason in your head, thought, oh, I wanted to become an artist because I wanted to be different. I didn't want a boring old corporate desk job like everyone else, like Jimmy from high school or whatever. And so you're like, I'm going to be an artist. I'm the black sheep of my family.
Yeah,
whatever.
and I'm going to come back to the hometown and 10-year reunion.
Like, I work at Disney.
Huh.
And then you realize, I sit at the computer all day in my cubicle at my corporate desk job.
Execs don't even look at your face.
They look at you like you're a cockroach. And you are like, I'm not sure I made the right decision when I was 17. And you go like, well, I love what I do. I love being an artist, and I love that aspect of it. But I kind of want to change my life a little bit. Guess what? You're $300,000 in debt. And you're looking at your decent paycheck living in California, and you're like, I can't. I can't. I don't have the freedom because I'm paying $300+ every single month on, or like a lot more than that, I'm sure, thousands of dollars every single month for the student loan debt that you just automatically believe that you can't pay off because it's $300,000. I can't even fathom when I'll ever have that much money to pay it off. And then you're just like, I'm stuck. I am stuck here forever. I am stuck in this job that I hate forever because I am under a mountain of debt because of a stupid decision I made when I was 17, because of this dream that was sold to me back when I was 15 and under that I thought was worth it, that I thought was a certain way. And you can say, oh, you're dumb, you're naive, you're whatever. But I was like 15. You can shame me and tell me I'm dumb all you want. Doesn't change anything for me.
Your kids have the same problem too, to be honest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like anyone who can't possibly remember what that's like, I mean, I'm sorry. What do you want me to say? And yeah, I really feel for, like, as much as people like to dunk on millennials, I'm like,
we do.
Yeah, and we are millennials.
Yeah.
And we made all the bad mistakes and everything, but like,
what makes us different is we're willing to make fun of ourselves.
Yeah, and pull ourselves out of the mistake, because I somehow, some way, stumbled across Dave Ramsey as I was driving home, and it like changed everything. So yeah, don't be like the people who just want someone else to take care of them, for whether it's like taking care of your finances or whatever. It's like, if you want to win at life, it behooves you to start learning about this stuff.
What does winning at life look like?
Winning at life looks like you being able to do whatever you want with your time, because you are not trapped under debt. You don't owe anything to anybody except the tax man, because we live in a society. We live in a government. And like that allows you the freedom to do whatever, to have a career change. If you want to travel,
you can live
fine.
in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
You
just have more freedom, period.
Yeah.
And I think all artists, that's all you want. The freedom to just to create. Yeah. And like, I have this dream, I guess, this idea of like retiring early. And I think everyone who says they want to retire early, I think, is misunderstood. It's not that I want to like do nothing, like just sit around all day and do nothing because I'm retired. It's that I can choose whether or not I want to work, and I can choose what industry I want to work in, and I can choose to like be really creative with my time, or to go traveling, or to I can do whatever I want, because money, or the fear of not having money, is holding me back. I'm stuck in a cubicle job for the rest of my life, waiting to really live until I'm 65. That's really sad. I don't know if I'll have tomorrow. I don't know if I'll have next year. Am I really going to wait till I'm 65 to finally live? That sounds terrifying to me. I'm more scared of that than whatever may come from me quitting my job at Disney.
Being filled with regret, not doing whatever you wanted to do sooner, or something like
wondering at the age of 65,
yeah,
where did my life go?
Yeah, that's right. So, on that note, we hope you enjoy the podcast. Time for a recommendation. What is your recommendation for the day, young Janet?
Kramer versus Kramer.
Aha.
I watched this movie recently, and I really, really liked it. It is kind of like a one of those Hollywood movies that you would there's nothing, absolutely nothing. It's like a perfect.
Oh, it's a perfect movie. Yeah,
What
like,
I would call a perfect
yeah,
movie. Doesn't mean like it's perfect. It just means it's like there's absolutely nothing.
Not a
I
single
would cut.
wasted.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those movies where I think if you studied it, you can learn a lot.
Yeah. And there are a few scenes that I would like to point out. The first one is, the reason why you should watch it is because it's like a father-son story, and it's a really heartwarming story, interestingly enough, about divorce. And it's basically, if you liked Marriage Story, you're gonna like Kramer versus Kramer, because it's basically Marriage Story before Marriage Story.
Yeah.
And it's about a father who learns how to father and realizes the importance of his family and his son in that amount of time. So one of the story points, spoiler alert, spoilers now, the main character, the father, he loses his job in the worst time possible, and if he doesn't get a new job on that day, he's going to lose custody of his son. And he really wants custody of his son. So he's hustling to get his next job. He's calling all the firms, and it's just, he's getting rejected over and over and over again. And it's like Christmas, I think. Everyone's partying, everyone's off work early, and the time is running out. It's like 4 p.m. It's about to be like, time's up. He's about to lose his son. So he gets like one chance. Someone calls him back. And I was like, we have a position, but I think we'll be able to interview you in the new year. And then he was like, no, I want to see the boss today. And then they're like, but we can't. And he's like, no, make time. And they're like, okay, fine. I think he has an opening at like 4. So he like puts his portfolio together. He's an ad man, and he like runs over to the studio, sits like nervously, what's on the line, because he's like thinking about his son. He's thinking what's at stake. And he does the interview, and they're like, wow, I have no idea why a man of your caliber is applying for this job. You realize like you're going to be making less. And then he was like, yeah, but I want to make a career change. And they're like, okay, well, I think the person who is going to make the indecision, he can see you next week. And then he was like, no, I want to see him today. And they're like, he's having, we're having a Christmas party over there. We don't want to disturb him, the boss. And then he's like, no, get him. And they finally drag him over, they look at him, and then they're like, okay, we'll give you a decision next week. And then he's like, no, you only have today if you want me. If you're not going to hire me today, you don't get me. Like, fluffing like crazy. But like, what's the actor's name? Dustin Hoffman is just in the scene. Oh, he's so confident, and he goes out and he waits, and they deliberate, and they're like, congratulations, we gave you your job, after like a pregnant pause when he's like, you don't know if this is it. If this is it, he's losing his son. And then they're like, congratulations, you have the job. And he's like, what? Really? Okay, thank you. I'm really happy to like work with you. And I was like, that is the most empowering scene I think I have seen in a while, where I'm like, that is the kind of energy that I want to bring to any job interview. Of just like confidence and like know what I'm worth, and like I need to get a certain thing, and I need to get the job done, and I need to get it done today. So there's that scene. The next scene I want to talk about is this really interesting scene where
this scene, it just opens, just like camera, you're looking down the hall, and in the hall screen left is like they both have their rooms in screen left. So boy comes out of his room, groggy, goes into screen right into the bathroom, and then he potties, and then he wakes up his dad, who in the same exact way, very Bicycle Thieves, does the same exact thing. But this whole time it's this really charming little father-son gag thing. But then they're quiet the whole time. They don't say a single word to each other. But on screen right, top right third, there is a funny looking figure that you can tell is reflected on a mirror because it's a frame, but there's no painting on it. But like there's a funny looking blonde figure, and it seems as though you're really not meant to know what the heck it is.
Yeah, it's right at eye level, where it's the same shape and proportions of a human if they were standing watching all the events happen, and you're like, whoa, is that a person in their house? It should only just be them.
Right.
And then you realize as they walk out the door, the camera pans and it reveals that you were looking at the reflection of a mirror, and the mirror was reflecting a cactus that was, for some reason, it really didn't have to be there, on something like a credenza or shelf thing right next to the doorway.
If you really think about it, doesn't make any logical sense.
It really doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And as a person who, every set designer thinks about where things should go.
Set designing is storytelling.
Yes. And you're wondering, why did they... That was such a obvious thing that, like, it can seem like a mistake. I really don't think it was. That you put a cactus on some kind of stand thing next to a doorway, which you can easily hurt yourself with. And it's perfectly the same size, shape, and eye level as where a human head should be. And because it's a cactus, the needles are blonde. So from a distance, with bad lighting, it looks like a human.
Yeah.
And a blonde human, like Meryl Streep. And I was like, whoa, that is weird.
Freaky.
I think that's totally on purpose. And I was like, that's really neat.
What do you think it means?
I definitely think it means that, like, Meryl Streep's character is like watching them. It's the first of another kind of almost like, whoa, freaky, when you think it's Meryl Streep. And it foreshadows a thing that happens later, where, like, the son is, like, playing at a playground, and I think, or he's being, like, dropped off to school or something, basically outside somewhere, and you think you're watching the son go into the school or something, and then it cuts quickly to, like, a reveal of Meryl Streep is watching her son and Dustin Hoffman, I think, from, like, a distance in a coffee shop.
Literally like this, looking through the window of a coffee shop.
And Meryl Streep is so good at acting.
Amazing.
She had the most, like, terrifying, intense,
how dare you bond with my child,
look in her face, but subtle enough where it looks like seething anger on the inside, and, like, you can barely see her through the glass of a coffee shop, and it's like, whoa, that's freaky. You're freaky. Your character is freaky. And I think that's what that cactus was alluding to. It was like, oh, it's suggesting, there are a lot of suggestions in the movie that, like, Meryl Streep's character is not all that well in the head. Yeah.
Kramer versus Kramer. Watch it. Great movie, especially to watch with your loved one.
Yeah, so that's it for this podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, jingle all my bells and buttons, and check out these other episodes over here for more of our podcast episodes. I head over to honeyandabsinthe.com for our merch. I'm wearing the Honey and Absinthe sweater today, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.